If you're bad at the sleds, it's really hard to be good at HYROX. But the good news is that it's super trainable. You can work yourself into someone who's a monster at the sled push. I've done about 30 races in HYROX. I've done open, I've done pro, I've done doubles, so I've seen it all. And there's been times that I've crushed a sled.
Great try, and here we go. Here we go.
And other times that I've been crushed, and it is way better to be the one crushing. So in this video, I'm gonna tell you exactly what I've done to improve my sled push and how you can get better at your next HYROX. So a few seasons ago, I had this thought that if I just pushed the sled a little bit lighter but faster, the work rate would make up for the lack of strength. I thought I was strong enough. And then I went into the race and got absolutely hammered by the sleds. And then to me, I was just like, am I just not good at the sleds? Is it ever gonna happen for me? So I decided to find out. I took my training from 1 day per week in a HYROX workout to 4 times per week. So I really ramped up the frequency. And then in my next race, it went great. The sleds, I managed them. I was able to come out the other side and feel like I was able to run well, and I did run a PR. However, shortly after that race, I came down with a lower leg injury. So the 4 days a week was like a little bit too much to really sustain and be able to recover well and get stronger. So kind of where I've landed now is that 2 days per week is going to be the best way to really improve your sled push and sled pull for HYROX training. It's enough that you can get stronger and not so much that it's going to hurt your recoverability for the rest of your training. So what this frequency is going to look like in practice is that you're going to do 1 day that's specifically for the sleds. It's not going to be running or anything like that. You're just gonna push the sleds, and that is going to be the bulk of that workout. The other session I recommend is something that's going to be a little bit more compromised running, more HYROX-y, so that you are able to understand how you feel when you will come into the sleds fatigued and come out of the sleds onto the run after pushing or pulling the sled for an extended duration. So just 2 sessions per week of dedicated sled work will help you get better at the sleds. So in terms of how you should load the sleds, I think of it in 4 different ways. There is heavy but doable. Think about something you could push for 45 to 90 seconds continuously. Then there's heavy but less sustainable. Something you can push for like 15 to 20 seconds that's like incredibly heavy, that's way above what the race weight's gonna be. Then there's light and fast. It's gonna be something that you push with intensity. It's only gonna be about 15 to 25 seconds with much lighter weight. And then I like light and continuous. This is something you can push for 90 seconds to like 2.5, 3 minutes of just consistent movement throughout the sled. For the sled push, you're just gonna be pushing it for the full duration. For the sled pull, I would recommend doing sled drags instead of doing actual sled pull for that full duration. So in terms of workout structure, once you decide what load you want to use for the sleds, then you can think about how you wanna structure these workouts. So things that I like for heavy but doable is 3 by 25 meters. Straightforward, not that complicated, with a lot of rest in between because you wanna make sure you're hitting it with intensity each time. Same type of structure for the heavy but less sustainable. So that'd be like 4 by 10 to 15 meters, big rest in between. For something like light and fast, 4 by 25 meters really hits the mark. And then for light and sustainable, I like to do 1 by 2 minutes and just like really sticking into it. Let the legs fill up, let it burn, and just sit there and take it. So 1 session per week should just be what I just mentioned, something that's straight up sleds. And then the other one you can be a lot more creative with, something where you are running in and out of the sleds that it's gonna feel much more HYROX specific. Make sure you're pushing that toward the front of your workout. If you are doing sled pushes 45, 50, 60 minutes into your workout, the output is just going to be too intense and you're just gonna be like kind of slow. And that's really not what we're trying to do here. We wanna make sure we're moving with intensity. So putting the sleds at the front part of every workout is the best way to be as specific as possible. Another note is that you're gonna wanna run a little bit harder in and out so you're ready for the discomfort of what you're gonna feel like in that race moment. So if you push the sled at normal intensity, come out and try to run a little bit harder than you feel comfortable doing because it is just training. And if you can feel like an extreme amount of discomfort during your training, it's just gonna prepare you better for race day. I'd also recommend keeping the total volume under 100 meters, especially in a HYROX specific workout. Doing more, again, it's just gonna make you go a little bit slower and you're not gonna be able to put out as much high-end effort that is going to really help you move the needle when it comes to the sled push. And look, we have a bunch of different workouts in the RMR training app. So if you just want this done for you, we have you covered. You can check the link down in the description. So if you only have have access to the sled for like 1 session per week, I would recommend doing something that is going to be running specific and then loading up the sled that's going to be a little bit heavier than what you're gonna feel on race day. If you've never done a HYROX, the issue is you don't know how the sleds are going to feel. The weight that you put on the sleds, it's not going to be a 1-to-1 because the surface that you're pushing on in training versus the surface that you're going to be pushing on race day is just different. You need to go like a little bit heavier than you think. Push and pull the sled to the point where you almost like can't move it. It's better to be over prepared than to come into the race feeling overconfident that you can just move the sled, because at your gym, it's going to feel different. So make sure you're going pretty heavy if you've never done a HYROX. It's only gonna make you more prepared. So HYROX has changed the surface for the sleds just this season. And I have some thoughts around what that's going to do to the actual competition landscape. As this carpet ages, it's going to be harder. The turf that you are going to be pushing on, it might not be consistent, and it's not going to get lighter as things age. So it's very important that you over prepare yourself for how heavy it's actually going to feel. So if you have a race, it goes fine. The next race you might show up to, it could be harder. So if you have a good sled push or sled pull and you think you just have it on lock, the next time you show up, it could be a complete surprise for you. I've been there, I've had it happen, and these new turf, it is going to change. And we're not exactly sure how much it's going to change, but it's better to be ready for it to be like incredibly hard. So prepare yourself for that physically and mentally. So being physically and mentally prepared is just one part. You can help prepare yourself with the gear that you are bringing into an event. So the grip on your shoes and the grip on your hands is going to matter a lot when it comes to your sled performance. When it comes to your shoes, you want to make sure you have full rubber coverage on the bottom of your footwear. This is going to help grab the sled surface much easier. And on that rubber coverage, you want to make sure that there's some sort of like grooves or something that's going to be textured. That's going to help you just create a better purchase to the ground so that you're moving it. If your feet start slipping on the push or pull, you're pretty much toast. So practicing and training is very important for that. The 3 shoes that I recommend currently for racing in HYROX are the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro 3 and the Mizuno Wave Rebellion Pro Low, if you don't want the crazy high stack height. The Puma Deviate Nitro Elite and the Puma Deviate Nitro are a great option. And the Nike Zoom Fly are gonna be really good options to go into your race to have peace of mind that your shoes are going to work. And then for the pull, I just think it's crazy not to wear gloves at this point. You don't know what that surface is going to be like. We don't know what the chalk situation is going to be like because they recently cracked down on a rule you cannot bring your own chalk. So just knowing that like you're not gonna have to worry about the grip on your hands by bringing gloves is like a no-brainer to me. So you can either wear them and ditch them or put them in your pockets, take them out and slide them on. There's a bunch of different options that you could use for gloves. I would recommend trying a bunch of different variations to see what works for you. It's better to be over prepared than to show up on the sled pull and just like get crushed because you can't grip with your hands. Okay, so that's everything that I'm thinking around the sled push and sled pull right now for this upcoming season. Make sure you're pushing that thing heavy. Make sure you're running fast in and out of it. Make sure the grip on your feet and hands are up to par with the challenge that's gonna present itself, and just go out and move that sled in training. I'll talk to you soon.